What's going on, people? It's Kid Shorty Gamer Nation in the building. Here going live and shit. So when you enter the chat, like, share, subscribe, and donate to your boy, all right? On 1 second. Give 1 moment. Boy, life. Life be insane sometimes. A lot of times as a male or man, especially a black man, you have to navigate through life, and oftentimes for us, climbing to the top of that mountain is a hard and difficult task. A lot of times we get kicked off that mountain, either by our own doing or by forces outside of our control. And have to climb back up that mountain again, climb back up that mountain again. And I often ask myself the question, if the objective goal is for, in the context of dating, mating, and relationships, for a black man to get a wife, to create a family, to pass on his legacy, why does his reward at the end of that rainbow have to be a 304? Have to be a black woman that's being, or any woman for that matter, but particularly black women, a black woman that's ran through, a black woman that doesn't listen to him, submit to his instructions, doesn't even believe in him. And what we often do in these spaces or in black culture is that we take the lowest common denominator of black men and say that this is the reason why black women won't follow black men as a general. That's what we do. We ignore the countless amount of black men that have climbed to that top of that mountain, fought and slain whatever demon and dragon on their way to the top of that mountain. And we ignore them. We call them the lame and the squares and the suckers. And we reward them, and we tell them that you must be rewarded with a 304, a whore, or chick for these streets. Like my southern brothers would say, you lying to me. You lying to me. Like, that's always been my thing in black culture. Like, what outside of dating and mating and relationships, we reward black men who work hard to conquer that mountain with bullshit every day. If it's not white people saying that, because this is what black women and white people do, right? They'll hype the black men that are in the majority in the overall general of black community that have worked hard, conquered that mountain, and done what they're supposed to be doing according to society's rule. They'll hype all those brothers into the same box of y'all are bad, y'all are the negative. I don't know why society does that. It seems to me that regardless of how ever black men follow whatever rules and regulations that society set, it still rejects them. You understand? I understand. And my second point is to the white dudes on the internet. Like, y'all program black women to be this way. This is why I don't like a lot of those conversations where I find it disingenuous where white dudes want to now somehow team up with black men like we the same. When it just really does teaming up with black men so that they can use black men to say the racist shit about black culture that they can't say openly. You know what I'm saying? That's my biggest issue about, with the white dudes in these spaces. They really don't give a fuck about what's going on with black men issues because they would have to admit some of their participation in it. You feel me? But I understand in the name of masculinity and manhood and upkeep in this country, at some point in the game, black men and white dudes are gonna have to come to the table. I don't know how that's gonna go. Because you have white men on YouTube, on Twitter, that don't even want to admit the atrocities that they have committed against black dudes. And instead of admitting that, they want to say, okay, it's the small hats. The small hats are doing it. The small hats were doing it. So white dudes, you let 1% whoop your ass. So anyway, like, share, subscribe to the channel, donate to the program. We're going to get into the topic. Feminism was never for us, the fall of black patriarchy. To talk about feminism, we have to start at where it began, right? We got to talk about where did it start? Who started it? Who coined it, right? We got to go through the genealogy of a thing. And I'm really doing this so that black men, when you see your black women speaking feminism, Marxism, or any of these things, because I'm gonna break down, because this is the thing. There's two different patriarchies. You have the traditional healthy patriarchy versus the tyrannical patriarchy. The tyrannical patriarchy is masked behind feminism, Marxism, and communism. So, what black men have to be able to identify, and any other man who watches this have to identify what it looks like, right? But in today's program, we're going to understand what feminism, who coined it, how it started, right? So, who funded it? Who's funding these things? So let me share this screen. I was going to share something, but let me share this screen right here. Stop sharing that. I want to share this. Bear with me. Charles. I don't know how to speak French, so y'all gonna have to forgive me. Charles. And I put it on subscriber chat only to prevent the trolls. Right? Let's see if it's working over here. Yeah, it's working over there. Okay. This is Charles Four. I don't know how to speak. I don't know how to pronounce French. Right? The man who coined the term feminism. The French philosopher, a utopian socialist, would have turned 250 today. And feminism, which Farah coined in 1837, has spurred milestones for women. So this is a French dude that coined. He didn't create it. He coined the term feminism, right? You have to understand. This is a French white dude. French white dude, right? White dude, white men. Y'all gotta take the L for this. It's mainly white men that's weaker. I want to say weaker white men that's influencing the women to rebel against your structure. But black men are the problem in society. This is a liberal white dude, a utopian socialist. You cannot have a utopian society in the chaotic environment we're in. Like, I live in Canberra Heights, Queens. It's a beautiful environment, right? But we got to understand that if men are not consistently taming the environment, battling the elements, civilization can go away in like that, right? So there's no utopian, right? A utopian society has to be maintained by the men who want to tame it and maintain it. And it's a difficult task to do, right? So let's continue. One would not be far wrong to say Francis Marie Charles Fourier was quite the radical for his time. Radical, remember that. You got to be careful when people say radical. What's radical mean, right? What context, right? What are you rebelling against? Are you rebelling against a system that's in place that's been proven to provide structure and safety and consistent success? Are you rebelling against that, or are you rebelling against a tyrannical government that's being oppressive? You have to be careful, all right? Born 250 years ago on April 7th, 1772, in Vincent Khan, oh, I don't even know how to say that, France. So he's born, so this is a French dude. Charles Fourier was the son of a businessman who didn't want to follow in his father's footsteps, but instead wanted to become an engineer. However, this field of education back then was open only to sons of French noblemen. Oh, I see. Later, when he became a philosopher and utopian socialist, he was said to have expressed relief for having opted not to pursue engineering, as it would have consumed too much of his time and distracted him from his true calling to help humanity. You know what I realized? That a lot of the weaker dudes in certain societies, they whenever there's a certain system in place that gatekeeps them from getting to it, they want to say, instead of doing the work to get in or beyond that gate or get within that gate, they blame the gate or just do another path, which he did here, right? But oftentimes, a lot of the socialists how they what spawns them or spawns the rebellion is that they couldn't get something from the higher society. Which, if you read that, that's not capitalism right there. That's communism. Communism forces you to set you in place to do something, even if you know that's not for you, right? Communism doesn't promote individualism, which that sounds like that's what he's talking about. But he's a socialist. A socialist is coming from communism, right? He said that to have express, so he wants to help humanity, right? You see how he wants to help humanity. Among the causes he furthered was the equal treatment of women, and Fair was credited with having given the cause its name, feminism. In 1837, Fair perceived the institution of marriage in France back then as oppressive towards women. He also argued, well, we don't know what France was like back then. He also argued that women should be given equal right access to important work based on skill and aptitude rather than on account of gender. Now, back then it was the industrial age where you needed a lot of manual labor, a lot of toxins, a lot of heavy lifting. So you had to give the labor according to the gender because men at that time, because you need the physical manual labor at that time during the industrial age, men are built and suited for that role. So it had to be based on gender role. Men are more built to handle physical stress. Even though I would argue that we built to handle mental stress too, because there's a lot of mental energy that you're using when you're doing the physical labor. You still got to think, you still got to use your brain, right? And you still got to use your brain to weather the storm in those physical, harsh environments, right? Social progress and changes of historical period took place in proportion to the advance of women. True liberty and social decline occurs as a result of the diminution of liberty of women. He said that feminism and its offshoot feminists would in turn spur various global feminist actions through this 19th and 20th and 21st century, which historians often refer to as waves of feminism. And he was right. Now, let me put my face on the screen right quick. Now, no one is saying that women don't have a right to vote. Women shouldn't have rights to their reproductive organs. Women shouldn't have rights to work, vote, own, rent their own home, make their own money. Right? I'm not against that. But when they're getting those rights, and now it leads to other extreme shit. Like you heard feminists a while back saying that they were going to delete a baby if it's a male baby. Or you have feminism promote promiscuity or promoting Marxism, things that go against patriarchy. See, I don't mind women wanting to have free will within a society as long as they're respectful of the patriarchal men that provide them that free will to do what they want to do. See what I'm saying? And as long as you stay into your place. But now, but now women want to be free to rebel against patriarchy openly and be disrespectful of it. That's where the problem comes into line. And then, two, you want to be in a relationship with a man and you expect him to be traditional, but you want to have the option to delete his baby, his bloodline. And he should not have any say in that. Right. It's your reproductive organs, right? But it's his sperm. If you knew you didn't want to have children by that man, why did you let him put a sperm into you? He gets to dictate, he should be able to have rights to his sperm. It's his sperm. You see, I talk about equality and equal rights. He should have equal rights to, or say so to his sperm. It's his child too. But oftentimes feminism will say it's my kid. If you look, I wish there's a commercial I saw. I wish I could find it and show y'all. All right, let me blow my nose. Give me 1 second. Oh, I don't have any tissue out here. Don't have any tissue out here. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Let's go back to this. Now, the thing is, when women are voting, women are outnumbered in men, and women are more easily influenced and controllable. This is why, oftentimes, if a man wants to destroy another man, they go to his woman first because you can influence your woman to be a because women they're trend followers, they're followers. So because they outnumber the men, typically you can get them to vote for bullshit, and bullshit would get added into the environment. Right? So that's the problem. Like you first have to now train the women. So you know what Malcolm X or the Nation of Islam say, uh, a nation raises no higher than its woman? Or when you teach a woman, you teach a nation. When you teach a man, you teach an individual. Well, the reason why that's being said is because the women are responsible for raising the children. And a lot of times, the men are not home every day to help raise the children or influence those children. The men are usually working or they're doing stuff. They're providing, getting resources or doing what they need to do outside of the home, right? The thing is that the women may be raising the next generation of children, or they might be that nation, but the men they are the teacher, ruler, and they have dominion over that nation. In other words, the men have to train and educate the women, right? The women are then going to pass down what they learned from that man to that child. So the women are supposed to raise the next generation of children according to the men instructions or the instructions of that man. That's how that's supposed to go. That's what that's what the Nation of Islam and a lot of these people are leaving out. When they say that a nation raises no higher than its woman, they're making it they're put into the context of women are above the man, or the woman's rule is supposed to be above the man. That's not how it goes, right? You may be the nation, but I'm its ruler. The man is the chief. He's a war chief. He's the commander in chief of that nation, right? He dictates where that nation goes, right? The first involved the women of the suffrage movement of the 19th and the early 20th centuries advocating women's rights to vote, while the second wave that began in the 1960s dealt with the women's liberation movement, which railed for legal and social equality for women, right? Like I said, there's nothing wrong with having legal equality and social equality for women, so long as you're not disrespecting the patriarchal men that you're asking these things from. And that you shouldn't be having freedom without consequences, which is what we have now. The third wave took place in around 1992, but focused more on individuality and diversity. And the fourth wave is said to have begun around 2012, with social media being used to highlight and fight sexual harassment, violence against women, and grape culture, leading up to the viral Me Too movement. Remind you, the grape culture they were speaking of, I think that was in Hollywood or entertainment. So that wasn't even conducted by the majority of men, right? Uh, Now, I'm not. If a woman actually got raped by a dude, okay, cool. That dude should go to jail. But what ended up happening in that thing is that you have women that were consensual back in high school with the dude that they were messing with. They came back years later and said that he raped her. And they were just using that against dudes who were in positions of power to say that to get that dude outside of that position of power. Right. And we really don't know if that chick got raped or not. Because again, we can't tell. And I'm not saying that grape is right. I'm not. I'm just saying, how do we know that you're telling the truth? If you got grape, you should have reported it at that moment in time. You should have now come back 50 years later because you're getting a payday, or the government who wants to throw this dude on us on top should have been able to pay you to come back to say, okay, you raped this person. That's my biggest problem with that. And then it puts regular dudes like myself who doesn't do any of this. Like I could have consensual sex with a chick. She could then come back years later, now that I'm a big YouTuber, and say that I raped her. even though it was consensual at the time. And I'm a regular dude. This is what that culture promotes. It's not promoting actually getting dudes like somebody like Diddy in prison for their actions. It's getting regular dudes who are honest. While inroads have been made, much remains to be done on feminist issues such as reproductive health, choices, equality, and education and employment. Gender pay gaps, sexual harassment, violence against women, and grave code. Well, we already know why the gender pay gaps was debunked, right? The gender pay gaps was debunked because the women weren't doing the same labor as the men, or put in the same time as the men, right? If you have women taking who are getting pregnant and they're taking a sick leave, but the man he doesn't have to worry about getting pregnant. He's able to work throughout that time. Of course, he's going to get paid more according to his time and his ability to work. See what I'm saying? So that's been debunked already. And a lot of the jobs that the men are taking are tough manual labor jobs that a lot of women are not doing. Now, you see all these women in this audience? A lot of these women are Serafina. This is the hippie movement. This is the free love hippie movement right here. You look at the clothes they're wearing. You look at this she's wearing. This chick over here. These are the free love hippie people, right? A lot of those free love hippie. Look at this mother. Put mother in a test tube. What? Meanwhile, they're saying free the female body from pain and inequality. Put motherhood in a test tube. A lot of these women at that free hippie love time, they're involved in a lot of sexual fornication, caught a lot of STDs and HIV and shit, to the point where Ronald Reagan had to correct it and he had to promote marriages. So, remember? Let me see. All right. So that's the feminist movement. That's where it started. Let's look at who funded it, right? Stop sharing. Share screen. Let's look at who funded these programs. John D. Rockefeller, funding of extremist feminism. Okay, this is an article, Medium. The Rockefeller, a prominent American family. And by the way, before any of you white dudes jump into my chat, the Rockefeller, they're German. So, go figure. The Rockefeller, a prominent American family known for their influence in various sectors, had a complex and somewhat indirect impact on feminist movement of the 20th century. So the argument that the Rockefeller started feminism is not true. They didn't start it, but they funded a lot of stuff, right? While they were not central figures in these, hold on, let me make sure I'm sharing this on the screen. My bad. Add to stage. There we go. While they were not central figures in these movements, their philanthropic efforts and support for certain organizations did contribute to shaping aspects of the feminist agenda. One of the most significant connections between the Rockefellers and the feminist movement is through their financial support of women's education. Again, I don't mind women being educated, but what are you educating them with? What are you educating them with? Are you educating them with logic, mathematics, how to read, how to write, how hygiene, how to take care of themselves, how to be productive human beings in society? Are you educating them to respect the patriarchal men that's providing you these things? Or are you teaching them to be the opposite of that? The Rockefeller Foundation and the other Rockefeller associated organizations provided funding to women's colleges and universities, which in turn help empower women through education, expanding their opportunities beyond traditional gender roles. Now we know who's been teaching women Marxism, socialism, and feminism, and beyond traditional gender roles. I'm going to go into that a little bit later. This support indirectly contributed to the advancement of women in various fields and eventually played a role in broader contexts of gender equality. What do you mean by gender equality? Like, you got to be careful with what these words, when they say gender equality, you have to ask them to break it down logically. And is it based off of facts or subjective opinions? All right. In the 1960s and 1970s, during the second wave of feminism, the Rockefellers also provided funding to various civil rights and social justice organizations. Remember, Martin Luther King was a communist. Go figure. While not exclusively feminist, these organizations often had overlapping goals with the feminist movement, such as advocating for women's rights, equal pay, and reproductive rights. So why you were advocating for the reproductive rights of men if you were talking about equality? Men didn't have a say-so in his sperm and his dick. I should be able to say, I only consented to sex. I didn't consent to get you pregnant. Well, we don't have that. Right? The Rockefellers' family engagement with the feminist movement encompassed several instances where their philanthropic, I gotta fix my speech so I can pronounce words better, efforts had a discernible impact on advancing women's rights and gender equality. Although not the sole driving force, their financial support for certain organizations and make sure. All right. This did contribute to shaping the movement's trajectory. One significant instance involving the funding provided to women's colleges and universities. The Rockefeller Foundation played a pivotal role in the establishment of Women's College of the University of North Carolina. In 1930, the foundation allocated a substantial grant of $350,000, equivalent to around $5.6 million today, to the initiative, emphasizing their commitment to fostering women's education and economic empowerment. You gotta understand, when somebody's funding your program, there's always a catch, and they're always going to dictate how you're supposed to spend the money, right? A poignant example within the context of the second wave of feminism is the funding directed towards the National Organization for Women. Now, don't Oprah have something similar to that? In 1970, it's called OWN, right? In 1970, Rockefeller family fund awarded NOW a grant of $50,000, equivalent to approximately $100,000 today, to support the organization's advocacy for gender equality and women's rights. This financial injection from the Rockefellers facilitated NOW's mission of dismantling institutionalized gender discrimination and promoting legislative reforms. Remember earlier in the stream when I told you that you have two different patriarchies fighting against each other? You have the tyrannical patriarchy and you have the traditional tribal patriarchy. These are the tyrannical patriarchies that I'm talking about, right? And this is what they fund. Furthermore, the Rockefellers contribute extended beyond the United States. So they've been doing this all over the world. Wow. All right, I'm not going to read the rest of this. But these group of people who have been funding these programs right here, right? What else did I want to share today? Right, I'm just showing you where it started, how feminism started, and where it started from. Now, let me share. No, I'm gonna share that for a different time. All right. Let's look at this.
Feminism was about equality.
All right. This is an older feminist, the ancient feminist, the ancient chick. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what she got to say.
I was a feminist when feminism was about equality, about leveling the playing field, giving women an opportunity to find their rightful place, particularly in the public world, which was tremendously important and exciting when we achieved that. But what feminism today, to me, is all about advantaging women at the expense of men. And it's become very much caught up in the demonization of males, presenting them always at a disadvantage. And I don't want to have any part of that. I was writing recently about boys' education, which is something I've written about for many decades. And I came across an article I wrote 40 years ago, where we just started to notice how badly boys were doing vis-a-vis girls. I mean, we'd had 10 years of programs trying to help girls do better in the schools, which was fantastic. And a lot of girls who had been held back by traditional assumptions about, girls not speaking up and girls not doing well in maths were now beginning to shine, which was a fantastic thing. But what was becoming very obvious is there were also a lot of boys falling behind and not achieving their potential. We have really very much feminist ideology infiltrating all our education systems, systematic programs to continue to advantage girls, and no one taking any notice of the fact that boys are falling out in huge numbers.
Whatever feminism.
So you don't think that you don't think that the broader education is part of that, especially in these urban cities, in these inner cities. Remember, in Black culture, you had Black Girls Magic. You had plenty of organizations catering to Black women and Black girls. And anytime they come up with an organization for Black men, they'd shut that shit down. Like Barack Obama, he came out with something called, I think, My Brother's Keeper or something like that. And Black women who were Marxism shut that shit down. Right? You see it with the current generation of Black men who are in the Gen Z. You see how foolish they are, right? This is why in a lot of urban areas with a lot of Black men. This is why a lot of stuff is not given to Black men. A lot of programs not given to Black men because of what she just said. And mind you, she's an early feminist. Like I said, I don't mind a woman being able to work, own a home, making their own money, so long as they're not at the expense of disrespecting the men who provide those resources to her or provide her that ability. And she's not free without consequences because being free is not really being free. You're not free to go murder and kill somebody. You're not free to go rob people. When people say free, you can be free to be anarchy. When you say free, remember, there's good and bad people in the world. We're in a chaotic environment. So be careful when people say be free. Right? What are you free to do? Cause chaos in an environment that's structured, that provides you structure and discipline and some level, a high level, quality level of safeness, or what do you want to be free to do? Think about that, right? So we'll go to something else. We'll go here. So I'm just going through the how feminism started, who started it, and how white people were dealing with it, and why Black women are stupid for trying to involve themselves with it, right? Radical feminism and the crisis of male identity has impacted our families in a barrage of subtle attacks. This is why a lot of Black men today struggle with their identity, because Black men have allowed, well, I want to say allowed, a lot of Black men raised by feminist households. First of all, their women define their identity in a feminist raised household, single mother raised household. Then you grow up to be an adult male and you grow up in a world that constantly tells you or tries to define for you how to be a Black man. And every time Black men become that definition that's been defined by them, the world still punishes you for it. The world still hates you for it. So Black men, we have to get into a space, both collectively and individually, in a space where we say, fuck what the world got to say. And define how you want to operate. So long as you're not trying to commit an act, you're not. So long as you're respecting the ethics of another man. You're not trying to murder that other person. You're not trying to rob that other person. You're not trying to fuck that other person's wife. You're not trying to violate somebody else's rights. You're respectful of each other, but at the same time, you define how you want to operate as a straight Black man. Let me say that again. Define how you want to operate as a straight Black man. All right. I started to add to this is written by, I don't know, does it say who's written by? This is coming from somebody's perspective, right? Each had a definition of either a girl or boy. A girl was defined as a giggle wrapped in sunshine and glitter. A boy was a silly little noisemaker covered in dirt. But I shifted to my 8-year-old son who ran alongside me. How did it make him feel? His sister and other girls were happiness and light, while he was nothing but a grimy noisemaker. So this person is acknowledging how society, through books and TV and programming, has programmed the girls to have high self-esteem, or programmed the boys to have low self-esteem, or bad perception of themselves. I realized that what seemed to be a harmless decoration was in reality a damaging display of radical feminist thought. It's like black men. It's like what Marcus Garvey said. Um, Let me look up the quote. Right? It's like in black culture, right? And Engelman brings this up. Black men, we don't have a deity, a black god, male deity that represents a black man. So because we don't have that deity that represents a black face, we don't see confidence in ourselves. The women don't see are confident in us. The women don't look to us as the second hand to God because we don't have a deity that represents us. Let me look up that quote. Yes, Garvey quote on God. Let's see. He made a quote. What was this quote? Give me a moment. I have to find it. Quotes. Let's image of God in himself. Somebody made the quote. I don't know if it was Garvey. Hold on. This is one of his quotes. Here we go. I think this is it. There this is. So this is what I mean, right? Garvey's black national blended with his Christian outlook rather dramatically when he claimed that African Americans should view God through their own spectacles. If whites could view God as white, then blacks should view God as black. And in 1924, the convention canonized Jesus Christ as a black man of sorrows and Virgin Mary as a black Madonna. Garvey used the image as an inspiration to succeed in this life. For an African American needed words to worship a God that understood their plight, understood their suffering, and would help them overcome their present state. Garvey was not interested in promoting hope in the afterlife. Success in this life was the key. Achieving economic and cultural and social and political success would free African American in his life. Marcus Garvey was a capitalist, bro. And he was a realist. Bro, this is a different thing. But hold on. Let me add this to the stage. I didn't add it. Go here. Right? So read here. Garvey's black national blended with his Christian outlook rather dramatically when he claimed that African Americans should view God through their own spectacles. If whites can view God as white, then blacks can view God as black. In 1924, the convention canonized Jesus Christ as a black man of sorrows and the Virgin. So basically, this goes with what I was reading here, right? This brother, like Marcus Garvey, understood that image can dictate, your imagery can have an influence of your perception of who you are, how you see yourself, right? Marcus Garvey understood that black men or black people being able to see God in themselves would affect your perception. That's like with this brother right here. Radical feminism is affecting or impacting the perception of how boys see themselves, right? Men have devalued them. I realized that what seemed to be a harmless declaration was in reality a damaging display of radical feminist thought. For decades, radical feminism has negatively impacted boys and men. They have devalued them in doing so. They've created a climate that is toxic to strong male role models and ultimately destabilizing the idea of a man's leadership role in marriage. Radical feminism impact on boys' self-perception. Emerging during the second wave feminism in the 1960s, radical feminism claimed that men were oppressors of women and that the patriarchy or male dominance was interwoven into every aspect of society. Remember, I told you there's two different patriarchies. There is the tyrannical one, and then there's the traditional one, the traditional tribal one, right? Radical feminists sought to eliminate the patriarchy from social institutions, while feminism has gone through many changes over the past 4 decades. So, what no, we'll talk about that in another video. And it can be argued that we are now in a post-feminist era. The impacts of radical feminism continue to negatively impact boys and men by devaluing their existence as positive contributors to society. From clothing that promotes messages like the future is female to memes that explicitly ask who needs a man. And entertainment that portrays women as being happier in romantic relationships with other women than with men. Promoting lesbianism, we now have a society in which boys and men are continuously devalued. That's going on in black culture. How how would we devalue black men and black culture when we promote black men or rappers that kill each other and go to jail? When we'll celebrate a brother coming home from prison, but we won't celebrate or fund a brother that's going to college and graduates college. When we promote gangbanging and hugging the block, but we don't promote the brother that's going to college. We don't promote the brother that's being a trash man or into trades. Do you ever find it funny that the brothers who are gangbanging and into hugging the block and dope dealing, they get the most support, they get the most attention, they get the most respect. But the brothers out here who are being righteous, who are getting into the trades, who are not involving themselves into the bullshit, they get no support. You have to fight and struggle to get it on their own and get it out the mud. How radical feminism devalues boys in education. I dedicated 30 years of my life to public, and private, and higher education as a teacher. I continuously witnessed male disengagement with curriculum that was heavily slanted towards female students and across multiple school districts. This is why that board education has to be getting rid of. If you're gearing your curriculum towards the girls, but you're disrespecting the boys, how the fuck you expect the boys to learn anything? In addition, males are overrepresented in school punishment. Overrepresented in school punishment, dropout rates, academic delinquency, and ultimately criminal. Oh, let me read this up here. This shouldn't be surprising given that only 23% of American K-12 teachers identify as male in 2021, despite the fact that an estimated 51.4% of students enrolled in public schools are male. Oh, so only K-12. Okay, so that's kindergarten to high school. So that means that there's more female, and it's like a small minority of men. And then those men have to deal with those female teachers out there. You feel me? In addition, ultimately, criminal offenses is what is commonly called. So now, when you don't have men in teaching, these you don't have patriarchal traditional men in these schools teaching these boys, right? It's sort of like it's similar to when you take a boy out, when you take a boy to a rites of passage, right? And that father, he's grooming that boy or teaching that boy the ways of the world, the logic, the reasoning, how to analyze things that are male traits. Well, that's what. But having enough male teachers in a teaching environment, that's what the benefits of that will be. Teaching these young boys how to analyze, how to critically think. A lot of characteristic traits that a lot of black men need in today's society, right? Okay. School to prison pipeline, which a lot of black men experience, right? The drop in male enrollment in higher education institutions has become known as the male college crisis. While there are many reasons for male disinterest in education, it would be naive to assume that school climate, which devalues males outside the classroom, will be significantly supportive of males within the classroom. I have never been to a college since I want to say 2013, so I have no idea what the environment looks like there now. I would have to, I'm in New York City, so I'd have to visit a campus college to see what that's like, and sit in the classroom to see what that's like. You feel me? In some cases, this is a result of unconscious bias on overly educational female workforce. I don't think it's unconscious. While teaching in an urban school district with a strong amount of gang pressure, I walked past an open classroom door in the time to hear a teacher yell at a male student in front of his peers. And she's quoted, "You're like my husband," she said. "You never listen to a word I say." Woo. Ah, yo. I remember going to, I think, grade school. And I remember there was this white female teacher in there. She was a feminist. She used to talk about having sex with a cough, but it was an inappropriate conversation. I forget her name, but I think I experienced this. I'm 33 years old, right? She used to talk about how sex is stressful and bad, and how she didn't like having sex with her husband. I'm like, what the fuck? Why you talking about this shit to us? We don't want to know that. But at the time, I didn't know that that was feminism, but it was. And this was a white female teacher teaching black boys, black kids. So I have actually experienced a lot of the attack on males, boys growing up in New York City school, public school. So I experienced it firsthand. All right. All right. So this article, I'm not going to read all of this. All right. Boys with minimal or no father involvement often look to their dads as role models, but because they don't have much time with their dads due to divorce, their role models are more straw men or straw dads. These boys don't benefit from overnight hangout time or many hours. So this is telling you the importance of fathers, right? So, oh, hold on, back up here. So this is a teacher discussing this, right? So now we're gonna look into black feminism, right? So we're gonna share this tab right here. So let me set this up right quick. Sides. It's gonna be two sides here. There's a couple slides I want to share. So just to say that is the people that jumped into the chat. They just came in here to troll because I put it to subscriber chat only. And they couldn't say what they wanted to my damn comment section. They left. Money, I'm telling y'all how I'm giving y'all a conscious thing on how. So let me do this first, right? Who started feminism? Feminism originated in Europe, specifically Western Europe, France, Britain, and later America, primarily among white upper and middle class women. The earliest seeds began in the 18th and 19th centuries during the Enlightenment and early liberal revolutions, a time when ideas of individual rights were being taken on. Mind you, this was upper class and middle class white women that were benefiting from a white patriarchal structure. Just think about that, right? They were upper to and middle class white women, right? They were broke. They had patriarchal men that were providing them something, yet they still wanted to rebel. Let's go to why they were doing it, right? Timeline. First wave feminism, mid 1800s to early 1900s. Goal: equal equality, especially the right to vote. Women's suffrage group was started mostly white women in Britain and the U.S. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, and Mary. I don't know why the fuck you say that, right? Now, what men have to understand this is that women, they didn't do this. They took their time to do this, right? They got their rights to vote because women outnumbered the men, right? So now that the women outnumber the men, and you can easily influence women to vote for bullshit. Do women vote for what? They're gonna vote for bullshit, and they're gonna vote for bullshit to add it to your environment. So that was the first stage tactic they used. So they were very smart and strategic in how they did it. They played chess on a lot of y'all dudes. Oh, white men, not black dudes. They played chess on white dudes. White women wanted access to the same civil and political rights white men had, especially property rights, voting rights, and educational access, which I have no problem with, right? A problem that I have with it again is that you are being disrespectful of the men that are providing you these things, or you want these things to attempt to overthrow the men in your society, right? Important context: these same white feminists excluded black women and even actively opposed black male suffrage, preferring white women to be enfranchised before black men. So, so like I told y'all, feminism was never for black men. They didn't like you. They didn't even want. They didn't even want to fight for your movement. They didn't. There was a looking to fight for you. They didn't even want black women to be in it. Second wave of feminism. Goal: social equality focused on workplace rights, reproductive rights, birth control, abortion, and gender roles. Right to abort your babies from what? If you're in a structured patriarchal relationship with a guy that you like and you want to be with for the rest of your life, why would you want to abort his baby? Because it's his sperm that put implant that got put into your stomach. So he shouldn't have rights over his kid. Like I told you, the Serafina virus. That's the whole point. The whole point of the Serafina virus is to uh, transform you into a feminist, transform that male into a feminist, female, and then destroy your lineage, destroy you. That's the whole point of the Serafina. It is mostly white liberal women like Betty Friedan, Feminine Mystique, and Gloria Steinem. Why these women were dissatisfied housewives and professionals who felt trapped in domestic roles and wanted careers, sexual liberation, and economic freedom. What was the sexual liberation you wanted? They wanted to be 304s. They wanted to, like, so what happened was, in my opinion, right? We had a lot of women that were actually 304s that only became traditional housewives because that was the only way they could benefit from being having any economic stability. So when they say sexual liberation, they're saying they want to be free to be a 304, but at the same time, because see, they're also asking for economic freedom too. So you want to be free to be a 3 or 4 without being shamed by that traditional patriarchy. Which, to be honest with you, I don't mind that. I don't mind a chick being a 3 or 4 and at the same time having economic freedom. Why? Because you're not forced to be something you're not, and you're not forced to lie to get into a relationship to benefit from that relationship. You could be a 3 or 4 and have economic and be a single motherfucker. So I kind of agree with that. The only problem with that now is that it influences other women to do the same shit or the dumb stuff. And we're just having the problem we have right now. Right. The only thing is though, we will promote hookup culture 3 or 4ism and OnlyFans, but at the same time, we'll shame and disrespect tradition in a house built by traditional men. Key point: this wave influenced black feminism, but was not made for the real conditions of black women, who had often always worked outside the home and already faced racism on top of gender bias. What gender bias? Third wave and fourth wave feminism, 1990s present. Introduced ideas like intersectionality, gender identity, and the queer theory. Took feminism beyond women's rights and made it about oppression, hierarchies, identity politics, and deconstruction traditional gender norms. Now remember, intersectionality, and I'm gonna go to what those mean, right? Much more ideological and activist driven, increasingly anti-traditional and anti-patriarchal, anti-masculine in tone, right? See, a lot of traditional masculinity is based off the Abrahamic religions. A lot of Abrahamic religions, it looks at things like queer theory, gender identity, intersectionality as weakness. It's weak. It's the weakness of society, right? So the traditional, so the reason why women are promoting these things because they know it's in direct rebellion of that tradition, and it can destroy traditional, right? Now, like I said, there's a tyrannical patriarchy going against the tribal father patriarchy, right? I'm gonna keep saying that. So why feminism is created? Motivation, political power. Description: white women wanted access to voting, office, legal rights, but still upheld white supremacy, opposed black suffrage. Economic freedom: women in the 20th century wanted to work, earn income, and not be financially dependent on men. Which I agree to that in some like I said earlier, because now if you can make your own money, you're not forced to be something you're not, and then have to lie to yourself and lie to me to be with me, and then later on divorce me and take half my stuff. You have your own shit, and you don't have to be in a relationship with me. Uh, sexual liberation promoted birth control, abortion rights, and freedom from marriage, leading to a weakening of traditional family. Now that's the problem, right? The whole thing that made our society successful was the family structure, right? One man and one woman putting their resources together, one woman staying home and taking care of the children according to how the man has told her to take care of those children. And that man built enough resources to pass those resources down the bloodline. Like I said, feminism is just the extension of Marxism, right? Cultural autonomy sought to redefine womanhood apart from religion, marriage, and motherhood. Why did they want? Why no? Why? Because religion is based upon the Abrahamic religion. Religion says the hierarchy of religion is God, man, woman, and child. Marriage, like I said, a lot of these women want to be either they were not fitted for marriage or they wanted to be 3 or 4s. Motherhood, the motherhood you have when you want to be a mother, you have to be nurturing, you have to be submissive, you have to be all these things, right? And they really want to be dudes or be in a man's position. If you're in a man's position, you can't really be part of a motherhood, right? By the late 20th century, feminism became explicitly about challenging and destroying male-led systems, not just seeking equality. So women were smart. They played chess. All you white dudes. See, black men, we had to fight you white dudes, and we had to fight your women, and we had to fight our own women and fight each other. Feminism was never created with black men or black families in mind. It was white female rebellion against white male authority, but it dragged black women into the struggle that was never truly theirs. Hold on, my bad. Once black women, once black, hold on, fuck, I can't see this shit. Once black women embraced this ideology, especially through black feminism and state black back social programs, it severed the traditional lines between black men and black women, fractured the cultural unit that has survived slavery and segregation. So black women, when you were following your traditional and you were following your black male leadership, they led you through slavery and segregation. When you stop following them, look where it got you. The only reason why it's destroying black men is because black men still keep getting into relationship with women who are feminists, black women who are feminists. And they trick you into not looking at black women as feminism and not looking at women who is engaging into this as enemies. Right? And I'm going to show you that. Bottom line, stripped of ideology. Feminism was born from white liberal West to challenge white male dominance. But when black women adopted it, it redirected their frustration away from the real enemy, systematic racism and economic oppression, and toward black men, their own natural partners and protectors. This is why I don't like siding with white dudes, because you white men allowed your white women to come over here and fuck with our community, to destabilize us. That's why I don't really trust a lot of you white dudes in these spaces. I understand that we have to partner with you, but I don't trust you. But 48 laws of power, was it rule 2? Use your enemy. So Alexandra Dumas fails. 1824, 1895. A man, yes, a Frenchman, the son of a famous novelist Alexandre Dumas, who also, this is who coined the term. So this is somebody who coined it. He used the term feminism. Oh, so I already broke this down, right? Already broke this down. Oh, so this is how it is. Feminism was born in elite white circles. Feminism wasn't born in ghettos or plantations. It was born in salons, universities, and political conferences. The early leaders were white women with access to publishing, organizing, and political networks, all provided to them by white dudes. Their issue, example, the boredom of being a housewife, was never the issue of black women surviving poverty or racism. So the top white society, both male and female, created a movement centered on white interests. But feminism became a tool of cultural and social engineering. During the 1960s to the 1970s, right as the Black Power movement, civil rights movement, and black nationalism were surging, the US government funded and amplified feminist voices, including black feminists who oppressed black male leadership. IG, example, independence and NOI, etc. Gloria Steinem, for example, was backed by CIA-linked organizations like the Ford Foundation to spread feminism internationally and within minority groups. Welfare expansion, LBJ's Great Society, financially incentivized black women to reject or replace the black male in the home and with the government. So that's a communist move right there, right? Because the idea of communists is to destroy the patriarchy or any family structure and have those people dependent upon the state, right? Housing vouchers, food stamps, childcare, if no man was present. So yes, black male leadership and patriarchy was directly challenged, not just by feminism, but by systems willing to weaponize it. I told you there's two patriarchies at war. Feminism fractured black unity. Before feminism, black men and women had a shared struggle against slavery, segregation, and white supremacy. After feminism, infiltrated black women were told their oppression came from black men, not the system. This divided the household. So now that's basically translation. The state, which is communism, is not your enemy. The enemy is your black patriarchal structure, which which is bullshit. This divided the household, eroded respect for black fatherhood, and replaced black male leadership with state dependency, communism. The biggest threat to this is why I don't want to hear no Chinese talk to me shit about communism. The biggest threat to white supremacy was a strong, organized black family under male leadership. Feminism broke that structure and the elites at the top. Hold on. What's up? Uh, this divided the household, eroded respect for black fatherhood, and replaced black male leadership with state dependency. The biggest threat to white supremacy was a strong, organized black family under male leadership. Why is that? Because at the end of the day, white supremacy, led by white dudes, of course, you're going to look at that as a threat to them. Why would you want your former slave to be on the same level as you, right? So up here, elite Western society used it globally. Feminism was exploited like McDonald's to African nations, the Caribbean, and was exported like McDonald's to African nations, the Caribbean, and Latin America. NGOs, U.S. aid programs, and gender equality grants often came with strings attached, like dismantling male led institutions or religious traditions. Woo! Let me read that again. Elite Western society used it globally. Feminism was exported like McDonald's to African nations, the Caribbean, and Latin America. NGOs, U.S. aid programs, and gender equality grants often came with strings attached, like dismantling male led institutions or religious traditions. So, this is what's going on in places like Jamaica. This is why you see a lot of feminism over there, right? They accepted the money from these programs with the idea of dismantling male-led institutions and religious traditions. This is why a lot of poor African, like Caribbean countries in Latin America, are broke because they're pushed Marxism over there. So that this is why that money is not able to spend towards things that these countries need. It's being spent towards bullshit. All right. Feminism came from the top. White elite women, educated and connected. It became a tool of state and corporate power. That is part of the tyrannical patriarchy I'm talking about, right? Welfare policies, foundation funding, media program. It divided the black family. Moved men from the home, blamed black men for women's struggles. It kept the black family weak and dependent. No patriarchal structure equal no unified political economic power. It served elite interests, maintained the racial hierarchy without using overt racism. Right? So that's how black men were not able to see it because it wasn't direct in your face. It was coverted. Right? If they would attack black men directly with this, we would have been able to see it. We would have been able to plan against it. We would have been able to fight it, like with the Black Panthers and them fighting what they had to fight in the Nation of Islam. But they use your women, right? Yes, feminism was a tool, used as a tool, not just as a philosophy to fracture and weaken groups that posed a threat to elite Western dominance, especially the black community. It's not about hating women, it's about understanding how ideologies can be hijacked by a system of power to destroy traditional strength, especially black masculine led strength. Right? Let's go off full screen. Let me see this one. Let's add this one right here. So before going to that, let me add this to the stage. All right. Stop saying that this is by Afropunk, by Gender Bent. I don't know what the fuck that means. Stop saying black feminism destroyed the black family. By Ashur Primus, Afropunk contributor. When I first heard of feminism, it was though through the amounts of hoteps and fake pro. I was told that feminism was a CIA program led by Gloria Steinem, and that was that was true. I remember the conscious brothers; they knew what feminism was. They understood that it was something that was trying to weaken them, right? To persuade black women away from black men. As a reward, according to Hoteps, black women would receive government assistance and office jobs. And I just broke down to you what it was. There is a more anti-black feminism on YouTube and Facebook than pro-black feminism. Why would I be pro-black feminism if it's something that's there to destroy me? As I just pointed out. When I was a sophomore in college, I enrolled into women's studies and even joined the Women's Studies Student Association. In my discovery of feminism, I learned that it was supposed to be a platform for women to rewrite their place in society. Rewrite. Remember that. Rewrite. In addition, intersectional, even if it's a lie, they're going to rewrite it. Was born to add non-cis women to feminism. What? Bro, I'm not about to read this. So this is how they're using black women as a tool. Hold on. In 2016, feminist Jones debunked the Hotep theories that feminism was to blame for supposed fall of black family. Jones pointed out between the 40s and the 70s, black did not have a long lifespan since the 1800s. Black men feared in not having a legacy, so reproducing with multiple women code for fragile masculine. What kind of bullshit is that? Now this is true right here. No, because black women didn't have to follow those pimps. You didn't have to follow those pimps. Jones further denies in the history as the Vietnam War draft took many black men to be pawns and bait for their country. I pointed that out. I pointed out how the Vietnam War was the reason why a lot of black men was not home to defend their household from the pimp and the player and the drugs, right? But at the same time, black women, you didn't have to follow those pimps and the players. In conclusion, what really destroyed black family, according to Jones, is black people trying to live up to white definition of patriarchy, while forgetting that other POC may not live in a heteronormative lifestyle. There are people who want it to be man, woman. So, see that? Read this last part right here. So this is the danger of black feminism. You just trying to convince this person that black feminism is not what destroyed the black male patriarchy, but you're adding these things in here, which is what destroys family. This last part, this is what destroys family right here. Right? This is not promoting the black family. Why would I not belittle the existence of L? Why would I would not belittle that? If these things, remember, the L Gibbet stuff is what destroyed Rome, is what destroyed, right? The Greco-Roman conquest, well, Rome is destroyed. Greek is destroyed. A lot of these places that had these weaknesses in their added into their society, it destroyed their empires. So why would the black culture adopt something that we're currently seeing that destroy us now, that destroyed empires before? And mind you, black culture in black America was just coming from slavery, trying to start their own patriarchy. And why would now black men start their own patriarchy to combat the white patriarchy? And hold on, back up here. Why would I not? Black men fear not having a legacy, so reproducing with multiple women code before fragile. What this is what you call increasing the population. So I have to increase the population to combat the bigger population who at the time was my enemy. Why would I not do that? Think about the logic. If during the 40s and the 70s and the 18th century, my biggest threat to me was white men who outnumbered me, why would I, a black man, trying to set up a patriarchy, not reproduce with multiple women to increase my numbers to combat it? She made that sound negative, but it's actually a positive when you think about it, right? Let's go. So stop saying black feminism destroyed the black family. It did. And let me go into, add this. There we go. How feminism, especially black feminism, contributed to the breakdown. Let's go. Undermining patriarchal structure. Traditional black patriarchy, through damage by slavery and Jim Crow, was regaining strength during the civil rights era. So, traditional black patriarchy, they were damaged during Jim Crow. They were damaged during slavery, but they were gaining strength during the civil rights era. This is the Black Panthers, the NOIs, and all this other stuff, right? Feminist rhetoric, particularly emphasis on independence for men, was adopted within some parts of the black community. The ideology undermined the idea that strong, protective, and leading black men were essential to the family and cultural stability. Remember that video, The Vanishing Black Family, where those black women were saying they didn't need a black father? Remember the strong independent? Like, black women want to pretend like we're stupid and we don't remember these history books. I'm 33 years old. I was born in 1992. I grew up in the R&B era of black women saying they don't want a black man and strong independent. I remember that. So black women want to pretend like these chapters don't exist and that we're stupid, right? This ideology undermined the idea that strong, protective, and leading black men were essential to the family and cultural stability. Black feminism framed black men not just as fellow victims of systematic oppression, but as oppressors themselves, echoing white feminist framework that didn't fit the unique black context. Wedge between black men and black women. Language of liberation often translated into rejection of interdependence between black men and black women. Black feminism increasingly created a banner of the sexist narrative, where black men were viewed as obstacles rather than partners. Movement began framing traditional male leadership as toxic, eroding trust in black male authority. Right now, black women would on purpose choose the thug and the gangbanger. They would have choose the black men who had structure, who had discipline, and who were actually traditional. They would choose the lowest common denominator and then blame traditional blacks, say this is what traditional black men is. It's toxic. So black women were doing this shit on purpose. See, they can lie to the rest of the public, which I think white liberals know, but they can lie to the rest of the public. No, they were getting away with the lie. They were like Scooby Doo, right? because most people don't know what black culture is. But because of black manosphere guys like the Angry Man, Tommy Sotomayor, they disrupted that narrative, which I'm happy for, right? Because it gave spaces for me to talk on here. Collaboration with anti-patriarchal state institutions. Again, this is communism. Anytime you hear anything with state institutions, that's communism, right? Or when you say anti-patriarchal or anti-father in the household or father's reign in the household, which is capitalism, and you hear state institution, that's communism, right? And you say go to the state institution over patriarchy, that's communism. Some black feminist leaders aligned with government, media, and academic institutions that had vested interest in reshaping the black family. This alliance often blamed intra-community problems on patriarchy rather than systematic economic and political oppression. The result: policies and narratives that favor state intervention over male leadership. The expansion of welfare programs that penalize father presence. That's communism and Marxism, right? Because if it was capitalism and it was patriarchy, they would provide lower income black fathers not with direct money, but with opportunities to get trade skills, to get job readiness programs, to get into programs that agricultural programs and stuff like that. Right? It would promote that stuff, but it didn't. It promoted state handouts, free lunch. Right? 40 laws of power says be wary of the free lunch. Media platforms increasingly glorify female independence while depicting black men as abusers, deadbeats, or immature. Movies, talk shows, and books began to center on how to live without a man, or why black women can't find a good black man, reinforcing public mistrust. Tools used in the process. Language ideology. Strong independent women became a badge of honor. Patriarchy became synonymous with abuse and oppression. Even when traditional black male roles were protective. Welfare, right? Nation of Islam, they were very protective of their women. Black Panthers, even though they were socialists, which was the wrong move, I believe if Black Panthers were capitalists, they would have they would have survived a lot longer, would have been successful, right? Housing and income support often penalized two-parent households, especially if the father was present, reinforcing matriarchal family structure. So this is proof that matriarchy doesn't work. There's no such thing as a matriarchy. Because as long as you have a dominant male in the environment, they're going to dominate those women and they're going to influence those women, right? Media representation, talk shows, films, and sitcoms ridiculed or demonized black male authority while championing single motherhood. Academic institutions, critical theory, and feminist scholarship reframe black men as part of the problem, not co-victims. Intersectionality misuse. Initially a valid framework, Crenshaw, but often used to shift the center of black struggle from race, class to gender and sexuality. This decentered black men, right? So it'll shift it from, which I don't have an issue with race and class, right? You need to have a class structure, but it took away from what blacks were struggling with: economy, access to job opportunity, access to these things, and then shifted to gender and sexuality, which distracted from what black men were going through, and it decentered black men. Which, you know what I'm saying? Let's continue. Cultural and social consequence. Rise of matriarchal household. Over 70% of black children today are born into single mother homes, feminist raised. This shift removed black boys from consistent male discipline and mentorship. Demasculinization of black men. Culture shift pushed for softer, more passive, or more ambiguous masculine roles. Many young men lost a sense of purpose, discipline, and or identity. Right? You see a lot of black men. They don't know where they're going. They don't know if they're coming. This is why guys like Travis Hunter or DDG could getting themselves into relationships with women with problems. They didn't have that male, masculine discipline or leadership to teach them, hey, this is the type of woman you avoid. This is the type of woman you should be with. Right? Increased gender hostility. Public discourse became divisive. Black women don't need black men. Black men are weak. Men are trash. Intergender resentment grew. fracturing collective progress. So now you know why black women will publicly disrespect you when you approach them, regardless of how respectful you are. Right? It's really and truly to really demasculate you in public for everybody to see. It's a you're being buck broken when they do that to you. Right? Spiritual moral disintegration. The decline of traditional roles. Husband as provider, wife as nurturer, often led to cultural confusion. Churches are once male led and community protecting, increasingly feminized and secularized, right? So that's why a lot of black men left the church, right? Because I'm trying to think, right? Because I haven't been to church in a long time myself, right? But from what I know, a lot of churches they're more filled with women, and the only men that are in there are the simps or niggas trying to fuck the bitches. To be honest with you, right? And a lot of these churches are female dominated and ran. Feminism. You even hear the pastor that's a male, female pastors up there, or if it's a male pastor up there, he's either fucking the wives of the church or he's preaching feminism because he understands that's what's going to bring them to the church, people to the church. So, male pandering to women and feminism is very dangerous, right? Black feminism didn't raise real issues. Did raise real issues: domestic abuse, workplace discrimination, and exclusion from both white feminism and black led movements. However, its alignment with hostile state policies, misapplication of feminist theory, and rejection. Well, hold on. There's a lot of black male abuse, domestic abuse by black women, but it's not often being told by black men. So I've pushed back on that. I'm gonna show that. All right. No, I do these a lot of these PDFs because it's hard for me to articulate it with my words. So I have to do the PDFs to get out what I'm speaking up to you. All right. This is part two. Yes, black men are abused too, often. CDC data, example 22 National Intimate Partner Sexual Violence Survey found that 1 in 7 men have been severely physically abused by an intimate partner. And black men are overrepresented due to both socioeconomic pressures and dysfunctional cultural norms. But black male victims are rarely believed, protected, or even allowed to speak up without shame or ridicule, right? We shame a black man for getting beat up by his woman knowing that if he so black men are put in a trick bag because if that same chick is whooping on him and he decides to cock his fist back and knock her the fuck out, we're gonna shame him for doing that. We're gonna say you should have never put your hands on a woman. You should have somehow restrained a bitch coming at you with a knife. And I do MMA. You know how difficult it is to stop somebody, especially if it's a female combatant coming at you with a knife or a weapon. It's not easy to just grab them and restrain them. So it's niggas who don't know how to fucking fight talking shit. But black male victims are awfully rarely believed, protected, or even allowed to speak up without shame or ridicule, right? So black men will shame black men for getting his ass whooped by a chick. And then if he whoops the chick ass, they'll also shame him. It's a trick bag. The Duluth model. Problem. The feminist abuse narrative. The Duluth model, which shaped U.S. domestic violence policy, operates from one core assumption. Domestic abuse is a result of male power and control over women. The model does not account for female perpetrators or male victims. It doesn't even theoretically allow for them. Theoretically allow for them. Consequences: a police response to a domestic violence call. Assumption the man is the aggressor, even if he has visible injuries. Officers often ask him to leave the home, arrest him, or ask what did he do to provoke her. This is why I don't get upset if a police officer gets his ass whooped by his woman and he gets arrested. Now, any police officer that does this bullshit right here, I hope you get your ass beat by your woman. And I hope you get the same shit done to you that you've been doing to a lot of brothers. because a lot of white male officers, when they go to a black domestic dispute, this is what they do. Even if he's visible, this model invalidates real abuse against men, or particularly criminalizes black men by default due to already ingrained racial stereotypes, right? Serafina virus. This is something that I broke down and I coined. Weaponized feminism plus state power, right? Serafina's archetype fits in. She fits in. She plays to the system, cries victimhood, evokes feminist talking points, and leverages the state's default bias against black men. She knows that she will be believed first. His words hold less value. The system is already primed to view black masculinity as violent, threatening, and disposable. So black women who is programmed by Serafina virus knows these things. You hear them speak on it on this internet, right? In one context, if black women want to blame black men for their inadequacies, they'll say that black men can't work, they're gay, they can't find a job. In the next context, when they want to play a victim and they want to blame white supremacy, they'll acknowledge that black men cannot find jobs or black men are facing economic distress because of the white supremacist structure. That's the two contexts that black women play. So they know that black men are disenfranchised by that same system, but then at the same time, will play like they don't understand that this is the reason why your black men are disenfranchised, and at the same time use that same system to disenfranchise you. This is why black men, you gotta be very careful when you're dating and you're vetting these women, especially if you want to create a black family. I want to create a black family, but I have to go into the game knowing that I have to vet and I have to put in the work and I have to dismiss women who present themselves as this. So when I make these PDF slides, this is to educate myself as well. All right. Double jeopardy for black men, race plus gender. When a white man is accused, he's still often given benefit of the doubt legally. This is why black men and white dudes like we're different. We're in a different space. Because at the end of the day, white men, you could rein in your white women, right? And you allowed your white women to program our culture, our women to be disrespectful to us. And so this is why I don't race bait. I don't get into that, but I'm going to point it out if I see it, right? A black man, however, is under two layers of suspicion. As a man within a feminist ideology, likely the abuser. As black within a racist system, inherently dangerous or predatory. So that's two fronts a black man has to fight. One, he has to fight the gynocracy that already views him as the abuser, and two, he has to be fighting a system that already views him as dangerous or predatory. And if you all black men as that, if you're the black man that's not a gangbanger, that's traditional, that's doing what he's supposed to be doing, that's hard work, and they view him as dangerous and a predatory too. So when a black man is abused and calls for help, he's not just ignored, he's treated like a criminal. Is it DDG going through that right now? Did it Jonathan Majors go through that? There's plenty of black men that go through that every day, both seen and unseen. How this gets used against him. Psych warfare tactics. Black feminist leading women, particularly those embodying the Serafina virus, often provoke conflict, knowing that man cannot retaliate physically or even emotionally without being labeled abusive, right? Because they label you as abusing them emotionally. And they got a financial abuse now. So now, if you're a man now and you say, "Okay, you're disrespecting me," and you decide to stop paying the bills or stop paying whatever you're paying for her, they're gonna say you're financially abusing her. This is how Serafina virus works, and this is what black men have to deal with. Right? Why would you get into a relationship with a black woman in 2025, knowing that all of them operate from this programming? Like I told you, Serafina virus is like Agent Smith. It seeks to turn even. Remember, Agent Smith in the Matrix. It even turned the Oracle into Agent Smith. It even turned majority of the Matrix into Agent Smith. The only person that was able to resist it was Neo, right? But every time Neo would try to resist it, it got stronger and taking him over, right? Emotionally manipulative situations by invoking racism against the man, while aligning with white feminist power, a contradiction that benefits them but destroys him, right? Tool she uses. The Deleuze model automatically makes the man the abuser, structurally baked into police court responses. Feminist rhetoric. Believe all men are toxic, black men are dangerous. That's what they've been pushing. Emotional welfare. Triggers him, records his reaction, frames him as volatile. State power. Courts, police, CPS, all tilt against black male credibility. Public opinion. Social media outrage. Mobs almost always side with the women. This is what we have with the Meg Thee Stallion case. Meg Thee Stallion, all women sided and the media sided with Meg Thee Stallion. Now there's proof coming out that Tory Lanez didn't shoot her. She, they even say she didn't even get shot. Final breakdown objective truths. Yes, black men are often victims of domestic abuse, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Right? What's the spirit? What's the emotional part? A lot of black men, you get uh, talked to crazy by your women, curse at you in public, emasculate you in public, emasculate you in your house, talk shit to you, and then teach your children to hate you. This is why I don't want to hear nobody talk about it's a black male's leadership. The woman is the reflection of a black man, and your leadership, and you got to boss up and level up. How the fuck you level up and boss up, and then still the women still demonize you when you boss up and level up. They don't see the okay, cool. But man, he's bossed up and leveled up as a man. Let me as a woman boss up and level up in my womanhood and be a good woman to this man. They don't do that. So I don't want to hear that reflection of a man society bullshit. Fuck y'all. Yes, many women, especially those influenced by radical or racialized feminism, weaponize this power imbalance to manipulate, destroy, and control black men. Yes, this is a destructive feedback loop that breaks apart black families and criminalizes black manhood, all under the banner of empowerment and justice. All right, black female empowerment because destroy the black man is shit, and disrespect you. Why would you subscribe to that at the end of the day? And why do you expect black men to adopt feminism or accept feminism if this is what it's wrapped up into? We get it if feminism was about promoting good black women who are going to be respectful and traditional to black men. I get it if you're saying feminism is about, okay, we want to own our own house, we want to make our own money, we want to vote, we want to, have a say in how the type of relationship we want to get into. Cool, fine, but why is it to at the expense of the destruction and the disrespect of your men and your leadership? All right. Oh, let's see what else I got here. Let me put this. Can I add this? No, let me, sure. Oh, yeah, this here. How women being free without consequences can destroy societies. Right? Gender identity. What do they mean? Gender identity refers to how what someone feels in terms. So I'm breaking down what these different terms mean. Right? Feels internally without being male, female, both, neither, or something else, regardless of their biological sex. This is not based on biology, but on self perception. It comes from the belief that gender is a social construct separate from biological sex. When somebody says gender identity, right, they're putting it in the context as if there's more than one gender identity, when there's only two genders. You got to remember, a we talk about biology and the evolution of biology. The male sex started off as a seed thousands of years ago. And then same thing with the female gender, right? Somewhere, some part in our human evolution and history, thousands of years ago, it started off as one cellular form. And it started off as one male molecule, one female molecule. And over time, as it evolved and it gained physical form, it evolved into what it evolved into today. One female, one male. If there was more than one gender identity, it would evolve into that. Anything outside of that is either a mutation or a weakness, right? Understand? So when people say gender identity, there's only really two gender identities. It's based upon your biological sex, male or female. You understand? Biological sex, gender identity theory. These are theory, right? We're allowed the women's theories to dominate and create rules and laws, right? Male or female based on anatomy and chromosomes, a person's internal sense of being male, female, both, neither, etc. Right? So you, I wanted to go into something else. So when somebody says that these things are in nature, right? And they're using example of a penguin being gay or a frog being gay. The thing about it is that not everything in nature or everything that is natural is good. There are a lot of things in nature that is chaotic. There are a lot of things in nature that human beings interfered with and caused problems. For example, you had something, they were saying something about how the pesticides that they were using, I forgot what state this was, that they were using on the plants was leaking into a stream or river, and it was changing the sex of the frogs in that river. So now, if you have human beings that are eating, as Robert Kennedy pointed out, if you have different chemicals and products added into what human beings are consuming, especially if that woman is pregnant, don't you think that those chemicals, right, that the woman's consuming, you don't think that's affecting the baby? And then now when that baby is being born into this world, then you have the TV programming that child into believing that he's more than one gender. We're making TV programs based upon these theories, and it's creating a perception or influence the perception of a child as he's born and he's watching these programs on your iPad and on the TV. So modern gender theory, someone with male identity can identify as female, and that's considered valid. They claim there are many gender identities like cisgender, your gender identity matches your biology. Transgender, your identity doesn't match your biology. Non-binary, you're not male or female. Gender fluid, your identity shifts over time. See, what the tyrannical patriarchy is trying to group the environment to be is they're trying to install transhumanism, right? So basically, like cyberpunk, right? The video game cyberpunk, you basically had human beings who were cyborgs or androids, and they could change their sex from male to female. So the tyrannical patriarchy is trying to groove society into transhumanism. This is what this is, right? And I will go into that in another video later on today. Traditionalists like yourself argue gender and sex are the same thing, and biology dictates identity, not feelings. And for most humans' history, this was the accepted view, right? The reason why it was the accepted view because it was based upon the facts. Intersectionality. Now, intersectionality. That's next. Intersectionality is a medical biological term referring to rare conditions where a person is born with ambiguous genitalia, chromosomal anomalies, or a mix of male female reproductive traits. Examples: androgen. I have to learn how to pronounce these words. Insensitivity syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, etc. occurs in about 1 in 50,000 to 200,000 births. Still male or female, but with complications. Activists often misuse intersex to claim gender is a spectrum, but biological reality still shows that intersex people are exceptions, not proof that male and female don't exist. Now, back in the day, these things were considered to be weaknesses or mutations, right? If I forgot, they used to say that if you had above average chromosomes or something like that, it was a cancer, right? And you could visibly see the destruction of that male or female body because of um, the defects, right? And remember, they say these things happens 1 in every 1,500 to 2,000 births. So it's not the rule. It's a mutation. It's an anomaly, like Neo in the Matrix, an anomaly, right? Let's go into it. Intersectionality, what it means, is a theory created by Kimber T. Crenshaw. I think this bitch is French. Oh, she's a black feminist scholar. She might be a tether. In the late 1980s, it argues people experience oppression in overlapping ways, like being black and female or gay and poor. In its view, it's a straight white woman experiences sexism. A black woman experiences sexism and racism. A queer disabled immigrant may experience many overlapping forms of, yeah, she's a tether, or oppression. Critique argue it creates a hierarchy of victimhood where some people are always right because of their identity status, and others are always wrong. It divides people into endless identity groups instead of views of unsettling them under shared values like family, tradition, and nation. Now, mind you, this is the weaker people of society. Weakness. And instead of saying, okay, how can we get stronger and how can we overcome our setbacks in society? We're now going to say now this is the strength, and we're going to uplift this as these are the standards, and this is what destroys the black community. This is what destroys the nation, right? Queer theory. Queer theory is a postmodern academic theory that rejects traditional definitions of gender and sexuality, claims that all identity categories are fluid, social constructed, and politically oppressive. Says terms like men, women, gay, or straight are limiting and should be broken down. Uh, what do you mean limiting? You're born with a dick or you're born with a vagina, and what you're born with dictates your function. Again, I'm telling you, they're grooming y'all for transhumanism, cyberpunk type shit, right? And this is what the tyrannical patriarchy is using. They're hiding behind these weaker things. So it's weaker men who somehow made it to the top, trying to go against the structured patriarchy or godly patriarchy. Main thinkers Judith Butler, Michael Foucault. I don't know how to say that name. Cardias. There's no such thing as natural gender roles. They're all learned. How do you learn how is biology that's ingrained into your evolution? How do you learn that? So you be telling me a cat doesn't have to learn how to be a cat. A cat knows it's a cat from the day it leaves the womb. A dog knows it's a dog. He doesn't have to learn how to be a dog. A female dog knows how to be a female dog. So does a male dog. So Sexual identity is not fixed, it's a performance. What? Social should be abolished. Society should abolish norms around gender and sex. Critics say it erodes clear family structures and social stability. It creates confusion, especially for children. It discontinues identity from reality and biology. All of this is Marxism. All of this is an idea to destroy that structured patriarchal so that the demons could inhabit it. Right? Traditional view versus gender theory view. Traditional view, male female biologically fixed. Gender roles are based on nature and evolution. Sexuality is tied to male female union, reproduction legacy. Intersex people are rare medical exceptions. Families built on stable male female pairing. Gender theory view. Gender is fluid, identity separate from sex. Gender roles are socially constructed and oppressive. Sexuality is a spectrum, norms are oppressive. Intersex proves gender isn't binary. Family can be redefined in limitless ways. What is the limitless ways? Unless now you're going to make a robot or an android. Final thought. You're right to point out that historically humans evolved with two sexes. And nearly all civilizations built their institutions, family systems, or moral codes around those biological realities. The explosion of gender identities in queer theory represents a radical departure from thousands of years of human development. It's not a natural evolution, it's an ideologically experiment. So they're passing laws and programming your children based upon ideological experimentation, disregarding the fact that these gender norms is what gave us the beautiful structure that we have today. Right. Now, it's almost 2 hours, so I think I did this enough. Later on, I'm going to do another video talking about another topic. Right. Bottom line is that the black woman adopting feminism is what destroyed the black man and the black family. Not that she has any power over the black man, but because of her job or duty is she's responsible for rearing the next generation of children. She will on purpose not get with a traditional brother. She will get with a low tier brother, or she'll engage in promiscuity to become a single mother to raise those children on her own based upon feminist ideology. Right. Second part to that is that um, black women who are the nation without a traditional black man to lead the helm, they're doomed for destruction. Right. Too. And then on top of that, when you're in a system that vilifies black men racially already, and at the same time ties his hand behind the back, what could he do to besides walking away from that community or society? What can he do to really control that woman and stop her from being destructive? Nothing really. His hands is tied behind his back, right? The only thing he has to do is to walk away. Hold on, with that being said, let me add this. What are your options, brothers? Let's look at that. This is gonna be for another video too. What are your options? The business part, reform from within, which is a more traditional sense, right? Try to reform the relationship dynamic with black women through education, leadership, and boundaries. Pros, preserve cultural continually, honors the struggle of the ancestors, allows for legacy building within the same racial group. Cons, high resistance, emotional fatigue, requires extraordinary discernment to find women who are generally cooperative and not performative. Right? As long as you have certain discerned feeder virus and a lot of black women accepted it, you're gonna have a hard task. This path for men with extreme patience, high standards, and the ability to vet properly. This is a very hard path. And to be honest with you, I prefer to, I want to be with a black chick. I want to be with a Jamaican black chick. But a lot of the Caribbean black women, they accepted this too. Feminist bullshit too. I might just opt out and get me a Latina chick, to be honest. Or mainly. Strategic departure. Passport, bro. Global options. Opt out of the current cultural battlefield and pursue relationship with women in other countries or cultures who are more aligned with traditional values. Immediate access to cooperative, family oriented women. Less cultural friction. Greater respect for masculine authority. Language and cultural gaps. Criticism and shame from Western communities requires resourcefulness and strategy to build a new system. Meaning that black men, y'all going over there to Colombia, these places, you still need to have game, wisdom, and knowledge. What's game? Having wisdom, knowledge, and information to help you navigate and then apply what you've learned to help you win in Colombia or wherever you're going. Right? You can't just go out there. You can't just go out there and run up into shit you don't know about. Right? This path, many are calling the Passport Bros route, not about running away, but about strategic relocation. Which, in essence, that's been the reason why we have an America today is because at one point in time, Christopher Columbus, he was a ship bro. He was a sail bro. He was a ship and sail bro, right? He sailed from Europe to America to find better land and opportunity. So don't be shamed out of being a passport bro. It's in your masculine obligation, in your biological imperative. You're being influenced by your own biology. You're not being influenced by the woman to go find other women. You're influenced by your own biology, right? Oh, by the way, if you're in an open relationship, fuck you and what you got to talk to me about um, a traditional relationship. Because most of the dudes on this internet, they're not in a monogamous traditional relationship. They're in an open relationship. So they can't dictate to me about finding a traditional chick, being in a monogamous relationship where I'm not with a promiscuous chick. They're in an open relationship. So one can argue that they're cope. The reason why they're not in a monogamous relationship because they have no other. Instead of acknowledging that there's something wrong with their environment, they're adapting to the environment. So I don't want to hear shit from an open relationship motherfucker or non-monogamous motherfucker. Shut the fuck up. The isolationist path. Go monk legacy. Go monk. Legacy through mission. Opt out of romantic or family entanglements altogether and build legacy through mentorship, business, or creative expression. This is the other essence of patriarchy, where if you cannot pass down who you are through a bloodline, you can pass down who you are through ideology, through influence. Sort of like what I'm doing here on YouTube, right? I can pass down my legacy through both bloodline and through influence. No emotional drain from modern dating, full control over your energy and legacy, and clarity of mission. Cons, loneliness risk. No direct family legacy unless through alternative means. Requires deep spiritual or philosophical grounding. The alternative means, hold on, so let me read the rest. This is the Stoic warrior's path. It's not for everyone, but it's better than being emotionally or financially destroyed. Now, I would say that the alternative is to do a surrogate pregnancy, where you find a woman, get a contract drafted, pay her some money. It's kind of like what Nick Cannon's doing. Have her get pregnant, but that child belongs to you. You have direct control over that child. And you're of influence and upbringing of that child. Surrogate, right? Bottom line, the black man's solution is not one size fits all. It must be based on his values, goals, and discernment. But one truth is universal. You cannot negotiate with a culture that sees your leadership as oppression and your masculinity as toxic. So you can't. This is why I don't want to hear none of you niggas talk about. Oh, you gotta be traditional. You gotta be A, B, C, and D. Black culture, including you black men, who simp and pander to women, you already frame that traditional shit as being toxic. But the only parts you keep is where he's being a slave and he has to be dominated by that woman. Why should a black man subscribe to that? You guys subscribe to that. The Dr. Umar Johnsons, the Yana Awakenings, the all you niggas, the Derek Jackson, you subscribe to that shit. You do that. Final word. Whether you choose to build your part or opt out, do so from a position of clarity and strength, not anger. If you stay, vet ruthlessly, lead righteously. If you go, build elsewhere, protect your name and seed. If you opt out, create, mentor, teach, leave something behind that can't be burned down by ideology. You're not alone, you're not crazy, you're not broken. You're a man navigating a system that wasn't built for you to win, so build your own. All right. So that's the options for black men. All right. Not gonna sit here and try to get y'all to gaslight y'all to believe that what you see in going on in your environment is not what you see. It's exactly what you see. Right. And unless you're gonna be in an open relationship and you're gonna engage in sex culture, then cool. The environment is cool for you. Understandable. And you're not monogamous, by all means. But if you're a traditional male and you're looking to build a family, the current environment of black culture is not it's going to be difficult for you to find a black woman that's a good woman because all of them are either the good women or either pick me, so they're hiding. And I understand why they would be hiding because they're going to get attacked. And the women outside of the pygmies, all of them have the Serafina virus. So anyway, this is Kiss Shawty Gamer Nation. Like, share, subscribe, and donate. Thanks you for those of you who came to the stream, and hope you enjoyed it. I'm out.